Welcome to The Art of Humanity with Jessica Ann. Listen for fresh perspectives with artists, leaders, authors, and entrepreneurs. Explore creativity and consciousness. Evolve your business with The Art of Humanity. Now, here's your host, Jessica Ann.
Welcome to another episode of The Art of Humanity, where we explore creativity and consciousness to allow you and your business to evolve. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me Gjilberta Lucaj. Gjilberta is a native of Albania. She began cello studies at age 5. At age 13, she won the National Young Artist Competition. As a result, she was the youngest student ever to be chosen to tour in Italy with the Shkodër Symphony Orchestra. The highlights of the tour included playing for Pope John Paul II and receiving a full scholarship from the Padova Conservatorio di Musica. Gjilberta went on to attend the Music Conservatory at SUNY Purchase College, Conservatory of Music, Mannes College of Music in Manhattan, and Juilliard. Gjilberta received a master's in music education from the Steinhardt School of Education at NYU. She's performed for Vice President Joe Biden and was chosen as a member of an all-star orchestra with members of New York Philharmonic, Boston Symphony, and Metropolitan Opera to partake in the first major classical and popular festivals in Barbados. She's even recorded for Sony, Avatar Studios, Alicia Keys, Beyonce, and Ricky Martin. Gjilberta, thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me here, Jessica. It's a pleasure.
So I'm going to call you Gilda for short.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. Gilda is perfect. That's my nickname.
Okay, great. So Gilda, you're a cellist, and you got into the cello at the age of 5.
Yes.
Out of all the musical instruments in the world, why did you decide on the cello?
I actually didn't. It was my mother who did. My mother was a pianist, and I wanted to play the piano. I had such an affinity for the piano, and I loved listening to it on the radio. But the economic situation of Albania at that time was quite distressed, and even though my parents offered large amounts of money to buy me a piano, there was just no pianos in Albania. So the teacher said that according to my physique, which was kind of tall and robust, and I was a bit of a tomboy, they said that I would be wonderful for the cello. And my mother said, "Oh, I've always dreamed of my daughter playing the cello. There's just something so ethereal and romantic about a girl playing the cello." So, since I couldn't have a piano, I started on the cello, and I was quite natural at it. So I stuck with it.
It is quite ethereal and romantic, that's for sure. What is your most favorite part about playing the cello?
You mean what is my... honestly, it is in my practice room. All those very private moments and those aha moments when I'm performing for myself and when I'm practicing. At this age and the status in my career, I guess it is more important to please myself than to please the audience, because I've one thing that I should give as an advice to every other musician out there who is, I guess, a young musician out there who is pursuing classical music and music in as a professional career, is to please yourself, because I've noticed that my best performances have been those where I've tried to please myself and play to please myself more than the audience. So not mainstream. And like I said, those moments, those personal, private moments of me and my cello in my practice rooms are the most cherished ones that I love and I truly appreciate. And just so the public knows, every time we perform a piece, even though you've heard it a million times, it's every single time, every one of those million times, it's different, believe it or not. You could never perform a piece the same way. And that is why going and seeing a live performance is so important for everyone, because you will never, ever get to see that specific importance. That specific performance in that time and that space, unless you've recorded it, of course.
So there's almost a sense of you're just existing in the now, in the present moment. Is it too private to share what goes on when you're experiencing those private moments?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the truth is there is no description what goes on, because there's this like I said, ethereal, esoteric, a very visceral experience of performing. And again, when you play an instrument for so long and it becomes just part of your essence and your being, that you don't know that is an outside thing. It is as part of your body, as part of your existence. So honestly, there's no words to describe the feeling of this existence, of this being with this instrument. It just becomes a part of your flesh, pretty much. Yeah, it is an amazing thing. It takes a long time to get there, but once you get there, only truly performance people or people who have worked hard or and I don't want to say hard, but only people who have been classically trained in every music or any instrument or voice or performance or dance or ballet or acting for that matter, classically trained. Something about being classically trained that you train for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours when you're young, and then you sometimes resent it, but then there you have that breakthrough, which there are no words to describe the feeling, and then you all of a sudden realize why you exist.
That's deep. I mean,
yeah.
So you were young, you started at such a young age, you put in a lot of time, a lot of hours, and did you always know that you were going to be doing this, now? No. As a matter of fact, I was, there's no other way to say this, but I was kind of forced from my parents, my mother mostly, because she realized, having gone through the same rigorous training, that she realized that I would not have this breakthrough, this personal existential breakthrough, unless you go through this pretty, intense training as a young child, like we all go through. And frankly, I kind of hated the cello. I liked the sound of it. I was attracted to it, but just like any child, when you tell a child to practice for hours while your friends are outside playing, you don't want to be inside playing this piece of wood. I mean, who would? It's this big piece of wood the size of your body or bigger than the size of your body. You don't want to be sitting there and playing these horrible sounds. when you phrase it like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in you're a child, so what do you know? I mean, I don't believe that a child truly loves practicing for hours on an instrument, even though I was, quote unquote, considered a precocious child and child prodigy, whatever you want to call these names. I hate labeling because we'll go into later. I believe that every person has is a prodigy at something. They just haven't decided or they haven't discovered it yet. What they're wonderful at. And some people have the chance to discover what they're wonderful at, and some people don't have that possibility to discover. But everyone, and in my career, and I teach, I coach, I perform, I meet various people. I do a lot of charity work and many different fields, and I know that people everyone has this thing, that are made to, but some people don't get the chance to discover it. In any event, I believe that even though, you are a precocious child, let's say, and you are a child prodigy, nothing comes to you without work. So without hard work, let's say talent without work is nothing. In any event, so I really didn't like the cello, but I was kind of forced from my parents, especially my mother, to practice. And then from 5 till about 13, I pretty much just would sit down and practice 3 hours a day or whatever that was. And then just couldn't wait to get out and play with friends and stuff like that. And it wasn't until 13 when I was chosen to perform for the Pope John Paul II in Vatican. And at that time was a big deal because Albania, believe it or not, was a communist country until late 1990s.
Wow.
So to be able at 13, when no one else was really allowed out of the country, to be able to go to Italy and to perform for the Pope, and I'm Catholic, but now I have my views in religion. I wouldn't say that I'm Catholic by religion, but I believe in God and Jesus Christ. But I wouldn't say maybe Christian is a better way. I don't even know if that's right, but Christian is a better way to label myself, I guess. But but at that time, to go and to perform for what was considered the living God. I mean, and I realized that this, as I called it, this big piece of wood.
It doesn't sound dirty or anything.
No, it doesn't sound good. I know, right? Exactly. I'm not saying a big piece of plastic. Just wood.
You just play with a big thing of wood all day.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Imagine that. What a podcast we have. People are going to love this. Jessica, I see a future. We're going to completely make this into a big piece of wood, and everybody's going to call the cello this big piece of wood.
We're going to start a new trend for sure.
Yeah, we're totally going to start a new trend, and you know how trends start from the little things, but yeah. I used to argue with my parents and say, like, why do I have to do this big piece of wood? It sounds like a wood. It's horrible. And the truth is that we had horrible cellos in Albania. So they sounded like take a big big piece of wood and just try to, play the strings on it, And it had holes, and, Albania was very poor. Not as poor as some countries that I've gone to and I've visited to, but pretty poor.
Yeah.
But anyways, so then I realized how the cello that I had been playing since 5 years old, and now I am at 13, that would give me this possibility. And it, as a, I have to be careful what I say, because one, I don't believe in incentives in music education, for example, when I'm teaching kids or something like that, or young adults, I don't believe in incentives. But however, sometimes incentives are so profound and so cathartic in a way that they're kind of, they are almost necessary for those who love music but don't see a future with it. Like for young children who might love to play classical music instruments, but they will realize that you don't make so much money, so you have to have a passion for it, But in any event, I realized that this would bring me and would open doors. I mean, if I played for John Paul II, and then also, he gave me a full scholarship, which, by the way, I never took, but it was there for 2 years.
Why didn't you take a full scholarship?
Oh, because of my parents. My parents would not allow me to go to Italy at age 13, and then they extended it for me to go to high school, which was 15. But the truth is that Albania would not allow me to attend a school at 15 years old without a parent. Yet a parent would not be able to leave the country at that time because it wasn't a democratic country yet, So I wasn't able to really take it. However, I would have been able to take it if my parents would have agreed that I would have a some kind of, guidance or kind of, but my parents, I'm the only child, so they said, no way, we would not leave our daughter alone in Italy. But it was okay. At 18 years old, I sent some, I don't know if you remember, some video cassettes
Oh, yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember videocassettes? I'm not that old, but it's just like, it's weird that I'm like, Albania is like 20, 30 years behind everybody else. I'm in 1990s, late like 1990s was, I sent a videocassette to a couple of places in America because I had some cousins here in America, actually in Queens. And they sent some videocassettes, and they gave me a couple of full scholarships. Juilliard included, actually, but so then I had to do a few auditions, and then, I was accepted. So there you go.
So you're an only child.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always a link. Whenever I hear that there's like this child prodigy or exceptional musician, I always feel like they're an only child.
Yeah, they're usually...
Why is that?
Yeah, you're right. They're either the only child or the youngest child.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what with Eastern European countries, there's not much, I don't know how to truly frame this, but there is not much else that is considered high class unless you speak 10 foreign languages and you play and you're truly great at an instrument and a classical instrument, or you're a genius in mathematician, like a mathematician or a scientist or something like that. My dad was. So I think that being the only child, there's this extreme pressure to truly make up for what would have been 3 children, for example, the achievement of the life achievements of, let's say, 2 or 3 children.
No pressure or anything.
Yeah, exactly. You would have to have that same kind of expectations from your parents, because your parents expect so much from you that, and they I don't say force you, because I would, today I thank God, Jesus Christ, or whatever. I thank God that my mother pushed me and my parents pushed me to do this, because I literally would not want to do anything else that I'm doing today, especially since I'm making a pretty decent career out of it. But, when you... being the only child, I feel like there's this pressure and this expectation that everyone expects you to do so well. And there's just, we are these introverted extroverts. I don't know if you know these things. Like we are, we love other people. We love to go out. We love to have fun with other people because we're so lonely, But we are such introverts because there's just this heaviness that, we know we have to do the best and make our parents proud and everything. Like, there's just, especially Eastern Europeans, they just, there's this expectation that you have to be the greatest child. So, there's no excuses to make, let's say, if I had a sister or a brother, or 2 sisters or a brother or something like that, there's no one to blame but yourself.
So, yeah, you're an artist. You're living and working in New York City, living the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned you make a pretty good living.
Yes.
Which is pretty remarkable. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's tough work, though.
Yeah, you have to be super talented to be able to work on your art full time. Was it always easy for you, or did you have struggles in the big city when you were beginning?
Oh my goodness, I could not tell you how many times I've cried for weeks. Just, I cannot tell you how difficult it was. One, because you're a foreigner, I don't want to say that America is biased or bigoted or anything like that, God forbid, but, you have to earn your respect in America. And especially in New York, where anybody who's the best of the best comes here. Like my Juilliard audition was, I believe, 326 people for 2 spots.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
that's
I was
intense.
326 people playing pretty much the same, not pretty much, but that same piece as you.
And you got the spot?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. But it wasn't, it's just not that as much as, it's not that you get the spot. It's just that, it's more luck sometimes than anything. But let's talk about how difficult it was. Europeans have a very different technique from Americans. And, to make it in America, you have to have the technique that it's desirable here in a way. So it's kind of like the same mentality with in the classical world, for example. It's just very different techniques and very different music expressions, Mm-hmm. And so you have to kind of accumulate that knowledge and this knowledge and become and still you're expected to be your own artist and to be individually, expressive, I guess, in performance. Because what sets people apart from each other is the way we all have technique. Because if you play something from 5 years old till 30s, let's say, of course you have the technique, right? But it is the performance and the expressiveness of it that sets you apart from other performers. And so what I'm saying is that in America you're expected to perform in a way that it is balance between the classical European way and American way, but yet be your own person. So it's a very difficult path, frankly, but it is still art. So you're not, it is still you and it's still art, and you do your best and you try always to find your individuality and your path and your sense of self.
How would you describe your individuality or your art? Like if you had to put it into words, what would that look like?
Well, it's so difficult to say that because, especially in New York City, Manhattan, the melting pot of arts. I mean, like I said earlier, everyone who is the best really tries to come here. It's not anymore, let's say, used to be Germany or used to be Italy, but it's New York City. It's here where the forerunners of art and music and everything creative begins. And then especially since 1900s, it's always been New York, believe it or not. Early 1900s, and in art, in music, in dance, in performing arts, in acting, ballet, everything, it's been New York City. So how would I describe my highly individualistic and highly expressional, like expressionism. I'm told, I don't know, I really don't like seeing myself perform in videos, but I'm told that I'm super expressive. And when people look at me, they even if I were, which is sometimes not a great compliment, but they say they love music. But even if they were deaf, the expressions in my face and my body, they would feel the music through just by looking at me if they were deaf. And that's, in a way, it's a compliment because I become one with the music and I completely forget where I am. And it takes a long time to get there, frankly, but I completely forget where I am. I perform. I get into this plane of existence that it's not here, it's not there, it's not in the future, it's not in the past. I am there. It's just this complete different existence when I'm performing. And I always make my own story in each and every one of the pieces that I've ever performed. I do background search on the composers, let's say what he was going through and, when I'm performing a piece, but I make my own story. And this is what I tell my students and young artists that I coach. Whenever you learn a new piece of music, put a story to it. It's sad, it's happy, it's, you make a movie out of it. And as you perform in it, you imagine that movie and you go with it and you imagine that story and you put a story to it and you sing it,
So do you put the emotion behind the story first, or how do you frame the story when you're playing the music? Do you?
Absolutely. Obviously in the practice room, you play the piece, you kind of know what the piece is going to, so you have those emotions, and then you make up the story. Like, let's say it's a love story, and it's sad, because mostly classical music, it's sad. you make up a kind of a story maybe that you've experienced, or maybe a story that you've seen, but you make this ethereal story up, and you become this multi-artist as you perform this piece, because otherwise you will never have an audience if you are not completely expressing. Now, why music is so beautiful, and performing music, like performing classical music, or I mean, I don't just perform classical music, like I'm sure you've seen tango, jazz. I do all kinds of music, but every type of music it's a story that tries to capture a moment in time and in life. In the life of someone, in our life, in the life that in someone's that all we do is mostly classical instruments, for example. All we do is try to mimic the human voice, and the cello, believe it or not, is the only instruments that come closest to the human voice. So the cello is the only instrument that comes closest to the human voice. And with saying that is the same thing as what I'm trying to explain, that when you play this music, it's a new story every time you play it. And depending on where you are in life, what you're experiencing. But if you don't put a story, a movie behind it, you have lost the audience. And when you have a story in your mind, in your sense of self, and you're performing it, people are so drawn to it, even though you're not speaking. And this is why music is so esoteric and so ethereal, that it's a form of communication. It's a different form of communication from what we're used to. I mean, just look at people walking down the streets of New York City. Everyone has headphones on, whether it's rap, classical, whatever. Pop, everyone. That is a form of communication. But even pop songs did not have words, but those chords, that music, people would still be listening to it.
It's a vibration.
Yes, it's vibration, is rhythm. I mean, it comes from fetus. When we were when we were performing, pretty much the first things that you hear is your heartbeat, and that is a rhythm.
So what inspires you? What are the rhythms and the beats and the different types of music that you listen to on a regular basis to get inspired?
Believe it or not, you see, sometimes I hear people say, I want to ask you a question. People ask me all this all the time. And I want your opinion. What kind of classical music do you listen to? What period? Classical, romantic, modern, blah, blah, blah. Early period music or something. And because people say to me that they listen to classical music to relax. Mm-hmm. And you say that to a classical musician, and we all say, oh, that's so nice, but we all are chuckling inside, because classical music, even if it's Mozart for babies, it's not relaxing to us whatsoever. It's so passionate. It's this secret language that we only understand, that there's no way that I would be able to go to sleep listening to a symphony. Mm-hmm. But instead, my heart rate goes up, my expectations. I know what kind of chord is coming up. I'm expecting for that chord, for the resolving chord, and maybe the composer is tugging to my heart and is going 3 more chords before he resolves it, and it's painful. To us, classical music is actually painful. We experience it in so viscerally and in such deep way that when people say we listen to classical music to relax, we're like, oh, I wish. You know what I listen to classical? What I listen to relax is house music.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yes. It is so relaxing. It's monotone. It has the same thing. It's very monotone. It has about four bar difference, and that's it. And it keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. It's so repetitive that has nothing interesting in it, but it's great,
And you definitely have that joie de vivre and you just keep going, and you really have that fire in your belly, and it's just so inspiring.
But honestly, it's only because of classical music, because you understand the secret language.
Yeah, you know the secret language.
Yes, and honestly, and I'm not saying that normal people, by normal people, what I'm saying is the people who just listen to classical music for fun, that they cannot understand it, but they would have to listen to it in various forms, and nothing touches truly a person like a live performance. Because I tell you, I've done so much work in this, obviously, in recording studios, and it is so digitized, and it is so kind of fake and no emotions. You cannot get the true emotions. Even if you record in a live performance, you can't. We humans, we are multisensory, people. We're multisensory. We're lucky enough to have ears and eyes and mouth and body and whatever, and we experience things and vibrations through many different ways. And there's nothing, and I could not tell people enough that one of my main things to tell people is, please go and watch live performances, because you'll understand. Go and watch a classical music performance, whether it's a trio, quartet, quintet, chamber music, symphony orchestra, jazz, singing, dancing, ballet, modern dance, whatever it is, performing arts, acting, anything. Go see it live. You lose about 75% when you see something in TV, recorded or in auditorily, because we as humans, really, like I said, we experience things very viscerally, and we're bodies and we're energies, and we frequency in this life, So you get these frequencies and these, this amazing surrounding sounds that, and then you have your eyes and you see them. It's a completely different experience if from seeing something live and seeing something, for example, in TV.
Where can people find you online?
Sure. At monticelli.com is our website, which is MONTICELLI, so Monticelli Trio.
Okay.
.com, and Facebook /Gjilberta, which is GJILBERTA LUCAJ. So Gjilberta Lucaj, LUCAJ.
Gjilberta Lucaj.
Yeah, very long name.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jessica, and so wonderful to speak to you. I'll see you soon.
What a fun episode. If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a review on the iTunes Store.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Humanity. Please follow us on Twitter @It'sJessicaAnn. Join us next week with your host, Jessica Ann. Evolve your business with The Art of Humanity.